Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I have been blessed to have more than one encounter that I would consider scary. Although, it's been years since the last one, I kind of wish they'd make a comeback. I'll dump the spookiest of my story's context. I was living with my grandparents at the time. Their house was built in the Cold War and is partially underground, sort of dug into the side of a hill. One side of the house is exposed, while the actual main entrance requires you to go down a staircase and through several doors. The house is very open, with few doors to travel between different spaces. They had and still to this day have a really nice live feed security camera setup that watches all entrances and exits. The monitors are placed right next to where their computer room was, before they refashioned it into a living room. Anyways, on with the story. Be like 10 or 11. Sister is staying with a friend, it's just me and my grandparents. Time goes by, they go to sleep. Decided to stay up and fuck around in the computer room watching cat videos and getting rick-rolled like an idiot. Internet golden age, shat's rad. Something like 1 a.m. rolls around, I'm the only one up. See something out of the corner of my eye. Turn to see a woman in a white nightgown with dark hair walking out of my grandparents' room, past me, into the kitchen, which is separated by a small wall followed by a bar. Oh, it's just Grandma, try to say something, but she keeps on walking into the very dark kitchen. Get up to follow her and see what she's up to, never know if I might need to help with something. Make it to the kitchen entrance and stop, something feels wrong. As I write this, I think I realize what made it feel off. Grandparents have a porch light that is just outside of the back room, which is on the other side of the kitchen. They have a ritual every single night. Lock the doors, turn on the porch lights. But there is no light. It's like the kitchen and the back room have turned into a black hole, like there's an impermeable wall of blackness just in front of the entrance to the back room. Work up the courage to keep walking, make it halfway through the kitchen, staring into the back room trying to make out a picture of anything. I don't see anything, but the feeling I got before suddenly gets ramped from 1 to 100, something is really fucking off. Turn my ass around and go back to the well-lit computer room, decide to check on grandparents. Open the door, look in to see both of my grandparents sound asleep. WTF, 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 WTF. Decide to leave them be and watch the security cam monitors to see if I can catch someone leaving. See and hear absolutely nothing, nobody coming or going. Be spooked for a while, but being a 10-year-old with the attention span of a gerbil, I eventually fall asleep. I had almost forgotten about this encounter, but I was reminded of it years later when my grandmother was telling me about her mother. Apparently, she got cancer, and in her final year she lived and died in that back room. This shat really stuck with me, especially after analyzing it in hindsight. My grandparents' door was closed when I checked, and if they happened to close it at the time I saw the figure, I would have certainly heard it, since I was no more than 10 feet away from their bedroom during the entirety of the encounter, but I heard nothing, not even from the security monitors, which typically have a constant droning sound. What also gets me is that if it were someone moving around inside, the dogs would have barked. My grandparents have a habit of keeping a small legion of weenie dogs that incessantly bark at literally any movement inside or out. It's odd that they didn't even bark at me, much less an intruder. That experience will always be what I consider to be what spurred on my interests in the supernatural. I unironically get chills when I think about how the apparition was only but a few feet away from me as it walked past. I even remember the feeling of the air rushing by as they moved. Part of me wants to believe that it's my great-grandmother watching out for me, but the sense of dread I felt, combined by the other strange experiences I've had, convince me it might be something else entirely. Like I said, I've had more than one interaction with ghosties. Here's my experience with what I dubbed Shadow Man. He was also my first paranormal encounter. Be 6 or 7 or so at the time. Living with mom and sis in a 2-story apartment. Rooms are upstairs, kitchen and living room are downstairs. I always woke up before mom and would go downstairs to wait for her to come down and make coffee because I couldn't reach the coffee maker. Our morning cup was our ritual. It's odd, but I've been drinking coffee for as long as I've been alive. Love the chat. One day I'm just chilling in the recliner, waiting for her to wake up so we can do stuff like any other day. See something on the stairway. There's a shadow of a man, just walking up and down the stairs. Watch for a while, he kind of stops and motions towards me before walking back up the stairs. 8-year-old instincts kick in and tell me I should be scared. Cover my head up with a quilt my grandmother made. It was enough to feel hidden as a stupid 8-year-old, but I could still see through it. Shadow Man is just pacing, up and down, back and forth on the stairs. I'm adequately freaked out, but I try not to cry. This goes on for about 5 minutes, then my mother comes down the stairs. Immediately tell her about it. It becomes my obsession to draw pictures of the Shadow Man to try and show her what I saw. I would absolutely share those pictures with X if I could find them. It's been over a decade and we've moved so many times that they've certainly been lost. If I ever find them, I'll share though. And here is another story, not associated with ghosts or necessarily hair-raising scary, but the mystery of it leaves a weird feeling in my gut. Context: in this story I was older, probably 11 to 12 at the time. I was on forced visitation with my father, who is undoubtedly a schizo like myself. He lived with his mother, whose property is located right next to a sizable forest. Be visiting and chat. We decide to chill on the back porch at around 9 p.m. Dad's a guitar man, he busts some tunes. All's chill for a while. Dad stops playing guitar, then we hear something coming from the woods. WTF are those people? We stop and listen. My dad, myself, and my grandmother all distinctly and unmistakably hear what sounds like a boy calling for help from the woods, then it's followed by another voice, what sounds like an older man calling for help. Oh shit, someone might be lost out there. Dad grabs a flashlight and tells me to stay put. He walks up to the tree line and starts yelling out to them to follow his voice. No reply. Yeah, this shit is weird. Dad and Grandma decide to call the police in case there's someone actually out there. Police show up and ask us what happened. We explain and they supposedly send out troopers to comb the area. A little while later they come back empty-handed, they don't think anyone is out there. WTF. Okay. Years later, probably 14 at the time. Staying at my aunt's for a few days to visit, don't get to see them very often. About 11 p.m. at the time. Everyone's watching the football game, I'm playing Halo 3 with cousin. Man, good fucking times. Suddenly hear everyone freaking out. Go to see what's up. The adults are gathered by the window trying to look at something, they won't let me near. They tell me there is what looks like a man, standing at the tree line looking at the house. Remember, after you hit that tree line you're not going to run into a house for a while. It's all very rural from there on. Eventually, after their staring competition, the person walks back into the woods. They eventually rationalize that it might be an escaped prisoner. That happens sometimes in those parts. Call the cops again, they show up, and do another search. Come back and essentially say lol, I don't know, we didn't find anyone. I don't really know what happened in these two stories. I'd say it resembles the typical skinwalker, flesh gate pattern, but the problem is that kind of thing isn't supposed to happen in the southeast USA, that's usually something you hear out of NM, Maine, or any other state that has strong Indian ties. I have a few more stories from this town on various subjects if anyone would like to hear. Some of the stories are not necessarily my own or scary, but something really dark happened in that town that made me form a conspiracy regarding the area's local government.
Yeah, I want to hear the stories, mate.
Sure, I'm short on time today, but I'll try and summarize best I can. This one has to do with an event that scarred my entire town. I'll note that I can't really validate how authentic this is since I got most of my details from my kid sister who went to school with the victim. This was around the same time as the last story, sometime before I think. My little sister was with a friend, we'll call her TT, was having her birthday party with a bunch of kids at her house. Her house was a trailer that sat in front of a small batch of woods. At some point during the party while everyone else was having fun, T left the group and went to her treehouse that was out in the woods. The party continued for a while, and all of the kids went home around sunset. T's parents realized that she hadn't come back from the treehouse, and being concerned went out to look for her. They found her in the treehouse, dead. According to my sister, it was originally treated as a murder. She told me that T had been found nearly decapped, hanging from the neck by barbed wire. The weird part is that very shortly afterwards, they backtracked and called it a self-end, dropped it then and there with no further investigation. My poor sister was traumatized. She learned one of her best friends had died on her own birthday. I sometimes wonder if there was a cover-up or if small-town cops are just that eager to sweep something under the rug. The word around the town was that the guy running for mayor was a creep and had touched some ids before he started running for office. Makes me big think.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.